This is Lisa from MobileTechReview, and it's pen monitor time, and an exciting new development too. This is the Huion Kamvas 16 Pro. So the Pro model gives you a lot of the things that you liked about, say, a Cintiq Pro. We have laminated glass. That means there's no air gap between the top layer that you draw on and the display down below. So less perceived parallax, the pen tip being offset, that sort of thing. And it's actual etched glass, which is nice too. Instead of some icky screen protector overlay that makes things milky and blah and all that. 8,192 pressure levels. It's an IPS Full HD display. It's not a touchscreen, but at $469, I don't expect the touchscreen. That's fine with me, absolutely. Other features are a battery-free pen. That doesn't just mean you don't have to put batteries in it. You don't have to recharge it either. It's a lot like Wacom EMR in that respect. The power is provided by the digitizer. Still only one nib type. You get 10 spare nibs in the box, but you can't choose between, you know, the several different nibs you would with a Wacom product. But hey, again, for the price, that's fine with me. We're going to look at it now. So to be clear, for those of you who are new to this, a pen monitor is just a monitor that has pen input. It is not a complete computer, which is why we have it hooked up to this MSI GE75 Raider. You can use any Windows or Mac PC that you want to use with this. That's just what I happen to be using for a lot of my Photoshop testing. As is trendy now, and Wacom's been doing, and I like it other than the fact that, yes, it's a proprietary cable, so if it breaks, you got to source a replacement of it. We have a pigtail-style cable, which means one single USB-C connection on the monitor, and it pigtails out to 3 connectors. HDMI, so that's your only video input option there. There's no DVI, there's no VGA, you get the idea. And a USB cable, because that's what the pen uses to sense your pen input. And lastly, there's a pigtail for the power adapter, which is a tiny smartphone-sized charger that you plug into the wall. The pen supports tilt, up to 60 degrees of tilt. Now, I almost wish that it didn't. It's not that I don't love tilt, because I do, but their tilt's not quite up there with Wacom's, but again, Wacom's are more expensive, so hey, that's fair. But I noticed that the pen tip offset can change based on how I'm tilting the pen, and we all tend to tilt the pen, don't we, when we're drawing? And yeah, I think the sensor is a little high up in the pen itself, and that's why that's happening. I have to say, particularly for the price, that the quality and the build of this are really nice. This by no means looks cheap or cheesy at all. In fact, it's nice stuff. Pretty durable, and nice rubber strips over here to stop it from skidding should you actually use it flat on the table, which hopefully you won't unless you have a drafting table that tilts, because ergonomically speaking, your neck will hate you after a while. As you can see, it has what we call express keys on the side. That's a Wacom term, but hey, that's okay. One of them is the power button. One of them is for the on-screen display activation, which will make you crazy. There's none of those little buttons that monitors usually have to navigate when you're using the on-screen display controls for the brightness, the contrast settings, and all that sort of thing. You're going to use these, and they're not marked, so you just kind of have to guess your way through doing that. But if you do a quick press on the on-screen display button, it controls what this little touch scroll area does, which is pretty handy. So you can switch between zooming in and zooming out and changing your brush size. Changing your brush size is one of my favorite things to actually use that for. And you can program these others to do whatever you want. Undo, switch brush, you know, you get the idea. So good stuff there. It's pretty light. It weighs 1.5 kilograms, which is about 3.3 pounds. So this is light enough to put on your lap if you want. Now, I believe that there are models of this with and without the stand. And you'll see 2 different listings on Amazon, for example, with a slightly different price point. But the $469 model is the one that does include the stand. And it's an okay stand. It's one of those, you know, you move the flaps around, you get the idea. You can see how it works. And it gets the job done. It's not as nice as some of the bigger, beefier stands that you'll get with some of the bigger Huion displays, but something this small and light, they figure you might not even be using a stand at all. It's not as nice as the Wacom Cintiq 16 stand, but then again, that one is a $79 purchase in addition to buying a Wacom Cintiq 16. We get the adorable donut-style pen holder in the box, and if you unscrew that one, that's where your 10 spare nibs are. You also get an artist glove. I mean, obviously, this isn't a touch screen, but still, it helps you not leave marks on the glass, fingerprint oils, and all that sort of thing. And it's a slightly redesigned one. Not that I'm reviewing the glove, but I like it. It's a little bit more form-fitting, not so loose, and it fits either hand. Yay that. So what really makes this stand out is the monitor characteristics on it, whereas a lot of the more budget-oriented pen displays had just about full sRGB coverage, usually not very good contrast, and often films applied on top of the glass to reduce glare, and no laminated screen. Well, this this is great because they claim 120% of sRGB, which is about, in our test, we actually measured 88% of Adobe RGB and well over the sRGB standard. So it's wider color gamut than, say, the Wacom Cintiq 16 that sells for $649, and that's Wacom's, relatively speaking, affordable offering in this size range. The laminated glass is great, so you don't see any air gaps. So that sense of where your pen tip is spot on. And the fact that this is etched glass, it looks very good, even compared to the regular Huion Kamvas 16 Not Pro that we also have. This one looks less milky. Now they say the Not Pro version has etched glass too, but you know, it looks just a little bit milkier and yeah, so there's something about the surface of this that is nicer and more premium. And considering there's only about $90 between the Kamvas 16 and the 16 Pro, I mean, I would just get the Pro. But what it comes down to in the end is also the drawing quality, right? Neither of these is targeting the professional art market per se, where hopefully your company maybe is buying you a really high-end Cintiq Pro or something like that. So higher color gamut is nice on the eyes. If you're using this as a second monitor, things are going to look prettier. But what it comes down to is the pen and the drivers, because those are inextricably linked. And that's always been a challenge for Huion and even XP Pen and their competitors in this Wacom lower-end competitor market. So the good thing about the pen is I really like the pressure curves. Those 8,000 levels of pressure, it's really not so much about the numerical value there, but how gradual the curve is when you're drawing. It feels kind of like pen on paper. They've done a good job. The initial activation force is still a little bit higher, but I have a pretty light hand and it's not bothering me so much. Even when I'm doing very light strokes on it, it usually registers. But for those of you who do have a really light hand, that's something that you want to pay attention to, and it's not quite Wacom EMR level like you find a Cintiq or a Cintiq Pro, but really they're getting that down. Now when it comes to the pen tip offset, having nothing to do with parallax and the bonded glass, it's not about the air gap. Their drivers are always a work in progress. In fact, I'm using the latest beta driver because the full release version really gave me pen tip offset problems. Not just because I'm left-handed, and by the way, if you are left-handed, you can actually rotate this 180 degrees and use it left-handed. I tried doing that. I just put it back this way again because most of you are right-handed and this will look normal to you. Anyway, either way, the pen calibration on some of the machines that we tested, I ended up hooking up to 3 machines. It was well behaved on the Mac actually, but for our Windows machines, I noticed on our MSI GE75 that the pen tip calibration would just change while I was drawing in Photoshop. And it's not just about on the edges where the pen tip offset is more noticeably off, but just, yeah, random. And I would try to hold the pen straight up and down to reduce that because it really does seem to be looking higher up in the pen than I would like. So that's not great if you're really trying to work seriously on your art and suddenly your lines aren't exactly where you think they are. It's only a little bit off, you know, 2 millimeters, 5 millimeters sometimes, but it's there sometimes. So I switched over to the Lenovo ThinkPad T490S, and you know, the pen tip calibration from the get-go was a bit better on that. And I went through the monitor calibration process. And by the way, their driver doesn't say why this button exists for administrator privileges, but you should hit that and authenticate because it doesn't always save all of its settings. Otherwise, it needs administrator privileges. Hopefully someday they'll change that UI and just go with straight administrator privilege request right at the get-go. So everything is always saved and doesn't make you kind of crazy. Anyway, on the ThinkPad, the pen calibration was a little bit better, but sometimes it would go wonky and it would just decide to be 3 inches off. And then it would come back and it would be fine again. I didn't even have to restart the machine. So it's these things that in the end, no matter how gorgeous this display looks, and it does, or I just want to draw. And I want it to be as natural as possible, and that makes me a little frustrated. Now, Huion is always putting out new drivers at least once a month, so I'm hoping that they address some of these things, and then they probably will. But I just want to let you know so you're prepared for potential challenges. Now, a quick rundown of Huion's own competition. I did mention the Kamvas 16 Not Pro model. Like I said, I would get this one for the better colors. They use the same pen, they use the same digitizer, they have the same pen tracking technology, you get the same pen in the box, it's the 507 model pen. All of that stuff's the same, but this is just a nicer looking display. It's worth the spend. When it comes to the Wacom Cintiq 16, that's $649, and that's Wacom's, relatively speaking, more affordable for the not pro crowd. That one is still worth a good look for pen behavior, for the most natural feeling still, for using the pen, the way it expresses pressure curves, the way the pen tracking is accurate. The tip of the pen is always right where it should be on the glass. But that said, it's not as pretty a display. It's a little bit brighter. This one is only rated at 220 nits, and Wacom rates theirs at 250, though we measured at 270. It's a little bit brighter. Contrast is not any better on it, but it's not bonded glass, and it's full sRGB, not in excess of sRGB. So you're giving up some things in terms of monitor quality. It's only if they could have like babies, right? It would be like the ultimate perfect monitor. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos, and thumbs up if you like this video.